Do you not understand that if Donald Trump wins, nothing else matters because it's over? The Morning Joe might not exist anymore because Donald Trump has said, if I'm elected, I want the FCC reporting directly into me. And he will cancel the show.
He will cancel the show. He's going to become the president of NBC Universal. And then he poured gasoline all over himself with a bucket and set himself on fire with a Zippo lighter, screaming Allahu Akbar. They are nuts. That is MSDNC, Donnie Douche. It's Donnie Douche, right? And he was on Morning Joke, and if President Trump is elected, Morning Joke might not exist anymore. Just one more reason to vote for Donald Trump. Come on, let's take everything into account. Let's look at the big picture. Morning Joke may not exist anymore. That reminds me of, what does it remind you of? He just surprised me, Michael did, with that opening soundbite, as is our custom, and then I get to respond to it. But that's great. Who does that remind you of? I know it reminds you of presidential historian Michael Beschloss saying it would be the end of everything, the end of civilization. There would be no food, no air to breathe if President Trump were to be reelected. They're mentally ill, and bless their hearts, I guess we should feel sorry for them for their very limited mental capacity. Their parents, I'm sure, were not very bright. Their grandparents probably dug up potatoes with their fingernails, and here they are on television offering their opinions to people around the country and theoretically around the world. But Michael, you remember the Michael Beschloss thing? Michael Beschloss is going to be the end of everything.
A historian 50 years from now, if historians are allowed to write in this country.
That's right.
And if there are still free publishing houses and a free press, which I'm not certain of.
Not certain.
But if that is true, a historian will say what was at stake tonight and this week was the fact whether we will be a democracy in the future, whether our children will be arrested and conceivably killed.
That's right.
We're on the edge of a brutal authoritarian system, and it could be a week away.
Right? And then they imprisoned all of their political enemies.
And that was just the midterm.
Yeah. And as Michael points out, that was only the midterm elections. You can only imagine how Michael Beschloss, who is, what's the term, candy ass of the yin yang, came from, Mr. They had servants upstairs when he was growing up, and he's concerned that, or downstairs, wherever his servants may have resided in the sprawling estate that was the Beschloss estate. That's great. Could be that they're going to kill your children in the midterms, just the midterms. You can only imagine how upset he's going to be when we get to the presidential election next year. Well, happy Friday to you. I don't think the end is near. This also dovetails with the earth is on fire and we're all going to die soon because of the weather. They do this every summer too, and then in the wintertime, well, they go dormant. They hibernate for the most part. Boy, that is something I hadn't heard that one. Was that just today? Yeah. That was today. We're going to have to play it again later. And it instantly reminded me of Beschloss, and Republicans win in the midterms, your children will be killed. So vote like there's something at stake, would you? The Democrats, it's the party of the mentally ill. If you're mentally ill, the Democrat Party is the party for you. They don't love you, they hate you, but they are the party for you. Pretty amazing stuff. There it is. Okay, well, let's get started because there is a great deal to talk about once again. I had 21 hours in between, and boy, my cup is quite full again. Holy smoke. We are, of course, at 888-630-9625, 888-630-9625, and isn't it wonderful to just see the Native American tribe, the Native American tribes, that Native American leaders saying that, the Washington Redskins, they changed their name to the Washington Commanders. And now the name Commanders has been smeared by Joe Biden's German Shepherd, named Commander, who's bitten 13 Secret Service personnel between agents and Uniform Division, Secret Service. 13 of them have been bitten by Joe Biden's dog, Commander. And that was their new dog after they got rid of Major because Major bit how many White House staffers, I'm not sure. I don't think that dog ownership is really for them, don't you think? Not their lane, perhaps. They're not responsible dog owners. And now the commanders, you see, the commanders, they changed the name to commander, very militaristic. I can't believe the left didn't object to that because it's so militaristic. But now Native American leaders are demanding, they're threatening a boycott of the Washington football team. That's really what we should call them, don't you think? Since we're becoming the, plain brown bag Soviet-style version of the United States of America, just call them then we'll call the Bears because we don't want to victimize animals living in the woods. We'll just call them the Chicago football team, and then we'll call ourselves the Union of Soviet Socialist Republics. But never mind that. The Native Americans now saying they're threatening a boycott if they don't change the name of the team back to Redskins. I saw that yesterday and just burst out laughing. Too funny. Native Americans demanding that the team name be changed back to Redskins. I think that's wonderful. And since crime is skyrocketing in Washington, D.C., and Trayon White, the anti-Semite who believes that the Rothschilds family controls the weather and makes it snow in Washington, D.C. with the snap of a finger because they're, the snap of their fingers, because the Rothschilds and, the Jews are trying to take over the cities in America. That's what D.C. City Council member, he's a Democrat, by the way, Trayon White had to say, he made a video of himself explaining this to us, and then he actually posted it on the internet, because every day is an IQ test, and Trayon White has yet to get a passing grade any day. And then we've got another D.C. City Council member who proposed, thankfully he was stopped by the U.S. Congress. You know things are bad when the Congress is doing a better job than you and is less insane than you, and the Washington, D.C. City Council should really be taken over by the federal government and the Congress because they're mental and they're destroying our nation's capital. The government of Mexico has issued a travel warning for Mexican nationals who might be thinking of traveling to Washington, D.C., advising them that it's too dangerous, right? And we're on track for a 20-year high in homicides. The Democrats are doing that. All the homicides were committed by Democrats, too. And Trayon White was one of the city councilmen that defunded the police, and now he wants to call out the National Guard because the military must be called in to quell the Democrat violence, all the Democrat murders, the Democrat carjackings and stuff. Now we got another city council member who is looking to, because we've got a record number of carjackings in Washington, D.C., record number of carjackings. Democrats are going around with guns and putting them to people's heads and stealing their cars. In some cases, they're just dragging, less strong people out of their cars and stealing their cars from. So naturally, a Democrat in the city council wanted to lower the penalties for carjackings because, the problem is not our guns, it's your sons, and they're raising criminals. Hey, Democrats, stop raising criminals. Stop taking the leash off of your killer carjacking, drug-dealing sons and throwing them out onto the streets. And the Congress had to intervene and say, no, you can't reduce penalties for carjackings because some of them spend time, members of Congress spend time in Washington, D.C. also. Pretty amazing stuff. Your Democrat Party. And in the meantime, in between time, ain't we got fun? James Comer, the chairman, House of Representatives Oversight, says he will subpoena Biden family members. Biden family members will be subpoenaed. They're going to get the subpoena, and then they will defy the subpoena and won't show up, and the New York Times will applaud them because the New York Times is a criminal front group for a criminal back group, which is the Democrat Party. And the Biden White House, pretty amazing stuff. Speaking of which, the Biden White House now is going to trade arms for hostages. So Ronald Reagan administration reference there. The Biden administration, the Iranians are a terrorists organization. They're run by the mullahs, by the ayatollahs, and the ayatollahs, the mullahs, they're a criminal front group, not for the Democrats in this case, but for radical Islam, and they're very socialistic too. And they've been holding Americans hostage in Iran. They're actually Iranian Americans Persian Americans that were in Iran, and the mullahs took them and threw them in prison. One they've had under house arrest. The rest they threw into this hellhole of a prison out of a bad Hollywood movie. And yesterday they announced, hey, we're moving them all to a halfway house, and we are going to release them to the Americans in exchange for $6 billion. And Joe Biden says, $6 billion? Hey, bargain. Last time around, we gave them $150 billion. Remember the plane loads of cash, the transport planes with pallets of cash, shrink-wrapped. It wasn't even American money. It was euros. Delivered under cover of darkness in the middle of the night. And the Obama people thought this was a great idea to fund the world's #1 state sponsors of terrorism. And then you may recall at the time, I explained, because it was true, that the new #1 state sponsor of terrorism in the world was actually Barack Obama. And the Obama administration, the United States of America, under Barack Obama, became the #1 state sponsor of terrorism by freeing up, the figures varied, 50 billion to 150 billion in frozen Iranian assets, and then the plane loads of cash too. It was like a drug deal on a Colombian cartel scale. Actually, much bigger than that, because there was billions and billions and billions. Pretty amazing stuff. And now, here comes Joe Biden, another deal with the mullahs, with the Ayatollahs, and billions more for them. It's another $6 billion for the Ayatollahs, because the Democrats are not on our side. They're just not on our side. They're in bed with Moscow. Biden family got $3.5 million from this Russian woman who's the widow of the former late mayor of Moscow, close ally of Vlad the Impaler Putin. No problem. More than $8 million into the Biden family coffers from communist China. No problem. What service did the Biden family provide to communist China? None that we're aware of. None that we know of. And then, of course, there's Ukraine. At least there, Hunter Biden pretended to be on the board of Burisma. And when asked what his qualifications were to be to sit on the board of Burisma, he explained that he had already been the vice chairman of the board of Amtrak. And the reporter didn't follow up with, what qualified you to be the vice chairman of the board of Amtrak? Well, my dad used to take the train from Washington to Delaware from time to time, and he pretended that he knew the names of all the conductors. Remember that? And then it turned out he didn't, and they didn't know him, and pretty amazing stuff. Make the lie big enough, no one would dare not believe it. Pretty extraordinary stuff. In any event, James Comer says that the House Republicans will subpoena members of the Biden family. I predict right now that they will defy the subpoenas, and they will be applauded on CNN and on MSDNCN by ABC News and CBS News and NBC News and the Washington Post and the New York Times, because the left is here. This is not a land where liberals rule the Democrat Party. This is the land where leftists rule the Democrat Party. So amazing stuff. CNN's Jake Tapper confronts James Comer over lack of proof against Joe Biden. And Jake Tapper, who's a former Democrat Capitol Hill staffer, you may recall, says, I don't see any evidence of a crime. I don't see any evidence. Really? For 3 years, you fed us the Russian collusion story, President Trump. There was no evidence of a crime there. And then it turned out the crime was that the federal government and law enforcement agencies and the FBI and the CIA and the Justice Department lied to the FISA courts using Hillary Clinton's political opposition research and pretending it was U.S. intelligence when they lied to the top secret Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Court in order to secure 4 different secretive warrants to spy on Donald Trump and peaceful people close to Donald Trump. And they only got George Papadopoulos and the Carter Page and Naval Academy grad, and they smeared everybody, and it was the biggest lie ever told. And still, it's fine with the American news media, isn't it? Amazing. Also, Biden admitted yesterday that his phony baloney Inflation Reduction Act had nothing to do with reducing inflation. You know, how much was that, Mike? Like $1.5 trillion? But it turns out it was really just there to line the pockets of Democrat Party allies. You know, fight the climate change. The Democrats are going to change the climate of the planet Earth if you just give them more of your money. Pretty amazing stuff. And keep in mind that Obama and Biden have a long history of turning billions and billions of dollars over to the mullahs in Tehran so they can wage their terrorist wars against Israel and Yemen and in Syria and, and elsewhere. Also, Disney trying to Bud Light themselves. They got a new tranny trying to sell clothing. Disney to little girls. A guy, a dude, dressed up like Minnie Mouse. And this is Disney's idea. O.J. Simpson is in the news today. Another demonstration of the fact that liberals have no sense of irony whatsoever. And we are at 888-630-9625.
The Morning Joe might not exist anymore. He will cancel the show.
Hey, it's Chris Plant. Excited to tell you about our July 2024 Listener Sea Cruise. We'll be sailing around the British Isles, visiting Scotland and Ireland. Please join us. Book by this July 31st for extra savings. Visit ChrisPlantCruise.com. It really is. The Democrat Party is like Jonestown in Guyana, you know, the Reverend Jim Jones. They're lining up for the Kool-Aid real soon, I think. The earth is on fire. We're all going to die soon. I was texting with my friend Seton Motley at lessgovernment.org and pointed out something that I should have taken as completely obvious and immediately pounced on. If Donald Trump were to be reelected president next year, he would, of course, and Michael and I were talking about this, he would, of course, have control over the Federal Communications Commission, the FCC, right? And I assume that's what Donnie Douche is talking about on Morning Joke this morning on MSDNC, embarrassing himself and Western civilization. But a little detail for Donnie the dope.
The Morning Joe might not exist anymore because Donald Trump has said, if I'm elected, I want the FCC reporting directly into me. And he will cancel the show.
Now, here's a crazy little thing for the maroon. What a maroon. The FCC has no authority over cable television. It's only what goes out over the airwaves, broadcast television, broadcast radio. They have no control, no authority, the Federal Communications Commission, over cable television because it is not broadcast through the airwaves. And he couldn't be dumber if he got up early to get dumber. He is that guy. And then they all sit there nodding like morons, like cartoon characters, because Donnie just said something so incredibly idiotic that then the award-winning presidential historian and rich kid, Michael Beschloss, Donald Trump, that's just the midterms. The Republicans are elected. If they take over Congress, then they're probably going to kill your children. Your children will disappear and probably be killed. This is the left we're talking about here, right? They've killed more people in the last 100 years than any gang of murderers in the history of humankind.
It's over. Freedom is over if Donald Trump gets elected. It's that simple. No other issue matters. Every other issue sprinkles down from that. However you feel about the economy, however you feel about whatever issue you're dealing with, we turn into an autocracy. What our forefathers fought for 250 years ago is over. That's what's at stake at this election. Everything else is a subtext to that.
If the Democrats win, they're going to kill everyone in the country. Everyone in the country will be shot and killed by the military, and then the military will be ordered to kill each other until there's nobody left in the country. And before they kill each other, they have to burn everything to the ground, but with environmentally friendly fluids and things, so there won't be you want to minimize the smoke and going into the. But honestly, and then if the Democrats win again, they're going to unleash the nuclear arsenal of the United States of America. And how many do we have now? 8 or 10,000 nuclear weapons will be detonated around the world, and nuclear winter will ensue if the Democrats are elected. Somebody on Fox News should come out. Somebody on Capitol Hill should come out and play Donnie Douche there, and then make hysterical, irrational, crazy claims like these mental dwarves. You can't say midgets, so you have to say suffering from mental dwarfism. That's an actual medical condition, I believe. Maybe you call Donnie Douche a mental short person. Mental, is it little person? It's a little person, I think. They are amazing. They're just extraordinary. Oh boy, oh boy. And the Washington Redskins, it's time to change the name of the Redskins back to the Washington Redskins, according to a very, very powerful Native American organization, which it turns out is the most powerful organization in the world. It's the most powerful, all, not just Native American, but the most powerful organization in the world. And if they don't get their way, then our democracy is over. Oh, man. If I don't get out of the studio here this afternoon on time, then democracy is over. It's over. Because, honestly, this is what passes. I'll tell you what, if President Trump wins next year, he should pull all press accreditation for NBC News because they spread stuff like that, and Michael Beschloss that they're going to kill your children, and of course, and we should take away any accreditation that the Democrat Party has, because Katie Porter and the other Democrats going around saying that the earth is on fire and we're all going to die soon. Honestly, you guys are Jonestown in slow motion. You are insane. And I mean no insult to insane people. Many of the insane people in the country come by their insanity honestly, and I respect that. But these people are, boy, I'm telling you, they couldn't be crazier. And if you watch MSNBC for your news, you are mentally unstable. You need to seek and find help. All right, let's go to, because I want to get to the Washington Redskins thing in a minute also. And everybody I know is in favor of changing it back to Redskins, but I don't hang out with a lot of Democrats. Yeah, it's over. It's over, I say. And we have Kamala Harris, too, talking to the Reverend Al Charlatan of Resist We Much famed. We must, and we have Resist We Much wear and gear at the Chris Plant store on Al Gore's Amazing Internet. Always fun to share with your friends that watch MSDNC and man. All right. Let's go to the telephones, Michael. Let's go to Jim calling from Louisa, Virginia. James, you're on the Chris Plant Show.
Hey, happy Friday to you, Chris. First of all, I'd like to give a special shout out to my lovely wife, Kelly. She is a woman, but it's our 39th wedding anniversary today. So love you, Kelly. But the Washington Commanders' new name, I vote the Redskins. But if that won't fly, then I think they ought to revive the old basketball team name, the Washington Bullets. That seems appropriate given the crime rate in D.C. But that's my vote.
I think that's great. First, I want to wish a happy 39th anniversary to you and to your loving bride, Kelly. I think that's a wonderful thing. And you get on the radio and you say, I love my wife. My wife is Kelly. It's our anniversary. God bless you both. I think that's a really wonderful thing. And it's a nice Friday, so you get to go out. You have a plan. You're going to go out and, get something other than Bud Lights and hang out on a porch somewhere on this beautiful day?
Yeah, it's always a special week because we have her birthday, then our anniversary, then my birthday. My birthday is Sunday, so we just kind of celebrate the whole week.
Wow, that is great. That's a wonderful thing. Well, happy anniversary, Kelly. You can go to sleep at night knowing that your husband loves you very much. Isn't that a great thing?
Yes.
That's a wonderful thing.
If you need to get away from crazy, just come over here to Louisa. You've got Lake Anna. You've got Lake Louisa. It's just beautiful Central Virginia countryside, but it's good for the mind and good for the soul.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. And I love the idea of Les Boulets. We had in Washington, D.C., we had the NBA team for many years was the Bullets. The Bullets, because they're faster than a speeding bullet. And we had, it's like a Superman reference. They're the Bullets because they're so fast. And then the Democrats shot so many people and killed so many people in Washington that there was an uprising. You know, they love their uprisings, insurrections much of the time. And they changed the name of the Bullets. I thought the Bullets much better. There are still a lot of people in D.C. that wear their Bullets jerseys. I can tell you that much. And maybe since we're on this track, Jim, maybe they should, instead of the Redskins, it could be the Washington Carjackers, because we've got a record number of carjackers this year, and more to come, a lot more to come. I think we've had 6 carjackings per square mile or more so far this year. The news media stopped talking about carjackings because it doesn't make the Democrats look good. You know, kind of like the illegal immigration thing overwhelming New York and Massachusetts. So now Democrat Congressman and squad lunatic lefty Jamal Bowman came out yesterday and said we have to do something about illegal aliens because, he said, we've got to win 4 seats in the House next year to take control of the House back, and we've got elections to win. You know, not because people are being murdered or raped or the rape trees or the open borders sovereignty or the hundreds of billions of dollars we're spending on illegal aliens. And, you know, New York wants $12 billion to pay to offset the expense of, they say, about 100,000 illegal aliens in New York City, which means that's $120,000 per illegal alien that they want from the federal government. Amazing stuff. But Jamal Bowman says it makes us look bad as Democrats. He could care less about the actual effects on the country because he disdains the country, despises the country. He's a Democrat after all. But he says that it makes them look bad. And honestly, that they should start thinking that the murders make them look bad and the carjackings make them look bad, since it's all their sons. I haven't seen a single carjacking reported where the guy was wearing a MAGA hat or a Trump shirt. Not a single one. Every damn one. I'm a Democrat. But les boulets, as we used to call them, and that's a fun idea. Bring back the bullets. You know,
we need to restore some toughness to the Redskins organization. So anyway, the name would help.
I like it. I think that's fun. Now, do you think if we could get the name Redskins back, would you be in favor of that?
I think so. I mean, here in Central Virginia, everybody still has Redskins paraphernalia to include, you know, African Americans, and I mean, they're just proud of the Redskins. I grew up in Denver Bronco country, you know, in the late '60s, early '70s, and I was a huge Redskins fan in the Billy Kilmer and Larry Brown days. For whatever reason, I was just hooked on the Redskins, and you know, just always been my favorite teams, and always have identified the football team with that name. Yeah. So the Commanders just was never a good fit.
That's right. I agree. And it was kind of an early example of cancel culture and the left, you know, just running in and exercising their mental power or their mental power and saying, we demand that you change, pounding the table until they change the name. Then they named the Commanders very militaristic. It really makes me uncomfortable, the militarism associated with the word Commanders, you know, the thing. Jim, thank you for calling in. Happy anniversary to you and to Kelly. God bless you both. And I know it is very beautiful down around Lake Anna. And I look at real estate there on Al Gore's amazing internet there sometimes. If only I could afford to buy a house on Lake Anna like you. Thank you, Jim. And happy anniversary, Kelly. Now, here's the story from the Daily Wire. Native American group threatens national boycott if Washington football team doesn't change name back to the Redskins. This is great. And Katie Jerkovich has the story at the Daily Wire. A Native American group has threatened a national boycott of the Washington Commanders unless the NFL team reverses course and changes its name back to the Washington Redskins. The Native American Guardians Association, it's an umbrella group representing Native American nations, Indian tribes around the country. The Native American Guardians Association, which naturally has to be reduced to an acronym of NAGA, it's NAGA, wrote on Twitter, which is now called X, right? Just call it an X post. It's an X post. We have to start calling them X posts. And that the group, along with its founder and president, Eunice Davidson, have sent a letter to the Washington Commanders ownership and key leadership formally requesting the team revitalize its relationship with the American Indian community and rightfully change their name back to the Redskins. Okay, that's great stuff. And here's the what do we call it? The X post. The X post said Native American Guardians Association founder President Eunice Davidson sent a demand letter. So you got a little touch of leftyism in there, but everybody has to adopt the leftyism things because it's a demand letter. They're not requesting, they're demanding. See, because that's That's how it works in America today. A demand letter today to the Washington Commanders ownership, key leadership, formally requesting the team revitalize its relationship with the American Indian community and rightfully change the name back. It's right here in their ex-post. Amazing stuff. In a letter that addressed what the group called the cancel culture against the Native American population and the erasure of its steadfast role in American history, including serving as counselors to the founding fathers in the creation of the U.S. Constitution. And they're right on the money here. I'm with them big time. I think it's great. And it is the erasure. The Democrats are erasing. This is the term that I believe I first heard from my best girl, and I brought to you, that the left, the Democrat Party, is erasing women in the public square. And not just in college sports, but beyond. Speaking of which, Disney now has a cross-dressing Democrat loon who that Disney is using to sell little Minnie Mouse clothing to little girls, but they've got a man with male genitalia and everything prancing around dressed like Minnie Mouse, and Disney thinks this is a good idea. And yesterday we were talking about this, and I was wondering if maybe Disney had hired that woman fired by Bud Light, Alyssa Heinerscheid. Maybe Disney's hired Alyssa Heinerscheid and they just didn't announce it. And now Alyssa Heinerscheid from Bud Light is over there because they're doing a Bud Light on themselves here, Disney is. And they've done a bunch of these things lately, too. I mean, honestly, if this company were an idiot Democrat at home, they'd get into a bathtub and open a vein like Frankie Five Angels in The Godfather, but they're completely nuts. The letter talked about the history of the Washington football team and its relationship with the Native American community, dating back to its 1933 season when they were named the Boston Redskins. Isn't that interesting? I guess they weren't in Washington then. At this moment in history, they wrote, we are formally requesting that the team revitalize the relationship with the Native American community, change the name back to Redskins, which recognizes America's original inhabitants, using the team's historic name and legacy to encourage Americans to learn about, not cancel, the history of America's tribes and our role in founding this great nation. That's just wonderful. They're canceling the left. This is all the Democrat Party. They're anti-American, un-American, anti-human, anti-baby, anti-women, anti-capitalist. What are they for again? Don't even want to get into that. So encourage, and they wrote, should we need to encourage a national boycott, similar to what happened to Anheuser-Busch, in parentheses, Bud Light, which is now down $27 billion. Note, not one brick thrown, not one highway blocked, not one bridge burned. We will do just that. See, not the burning of the bridges, but the boycott, the national boycott. And I think that's wonderful. And boy, I want to hang out with these people. These people are making good sense. Wonderful stuff. The letter closed out by noting that in 2023, this oppression and arbitrary and capricious recognition of U.S. history and constitutional rights is not acceptable. The group also vowed to stand their ground because if you don't acknowledge history, we are doomed to repeat it. Keep in mind that the Democrats are tearing down statues all over America like the Taliban in Afghanistan. They're taking down portraits in the U.S. Capitol. They're all of Democrats. Every portrait taken down, every statue torn down, virtually every statue torn down. Democrat racists because they want to erase their own history. While they erase women, while they erase Native Americans. They're seeking to erase our own founding. They're seeking to erase the United States of America. And because of that, I demand we bring back the name Redskins. We're at 888-630-9625. I got a whole lot more. I got Bud Light and Billy Bush. Not the Donald Trump videotape Billy Bush, but B-U-S-C-H, Billy Bush, who is heir to the Anheuser-Busch fortune, which is a great job. I wish that's what my business card said. Chris Plant, heir to the Anheuser-Busch fortune. I'd have that on business cards, wouldn't you? That'd be great. But he's talking about buying Bud Light back from the idiots. And he says, and make Bud Light great again. Tells you a little something about him, too. And if he bought it back and made Bud Light great again, then I could go back to drinking Bud Light. But now I can't. I haven't had a Bud Light since the stupids came forward, Hey, stupids. All right, let's go to the telephones. Let's go to Sue, calling from Damascus, Maryland. Susan, you're on the Chris Plant Show.
Hi, good morning, Chris. How are you?
Wonderful. Thank you, Sue.
Well, I wanted to comment about the Washington Redskins. They do play in Maryland. They don't play in Washington.
Yeah.
And when they changed the name, I thought it was so ridiculous because if you know your history about the American Indians in this country, they were involved in the African slave trade way before anyone else was. And in fact, when Jackson sent the Cherokee on their Trail of Tears, they took their African slaves with them. And they had many black descendants of their African slaves that were part of the Indian Nation till about 10, 12 years ago, when they expelled all citizenship for those who were descendant of their black slaves. And two of the tribes, the Choctaw Nation and the Muskogee Nation, are now trying to reconsider maybe reinstating them because of the outrage from Americans and other governments. In fact, secretly, Biden has tried to reverse this problem, but he can't quite do it. So for you to change the name from Redskins because of a racial thing is ridiculous. If you want to change it because the American Indian was involved in the slave trade, the African slave trade, way beyond anyone else, well, then you can do it for that way because the Indian nation is a racist nation.
Well, that's a different analysis, I think, of the name of the Redskins. Fascinating. It's true that Native Americans owned slaves. They weren't the first, however, because they had to be brought here by Europeans.